All right, let's talk about something I'm sure we've all felt, that feeling of being stuck in an endless cycle of IT firefighting. Today, we're going to break down how you can move from that reactive chaos to proactive control. And we're going to do it by looking at 10 critical metrics for problem resolution. Does this hit a little too close to home? You know, that one server that always seems to crash at the worst possible time? Or that weird application glitch that pops up every single month end? It's completely exhausting, right? But what if there's a better way?
And that right there is the big idea we're diving into. The secret to breaking that cycle isn't about working harder or hiring more people. It's about working smarter. It's about measuring the things that actually matter, turning this whole firefighting game into a structured, data-driven science. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with why measurement is so powerful in the first place. Then we'll dive into how to build a solid knowledge base. From there, we'll talk speed and responsiveness, then containing and actually fixing problems. And finally, we'll get to the holy grail, preventing incidents before they even happen. First things first, building that knowledge base. You see, before you can get good at solving new problems, you have to get a really solid grip on the ones you've already dealt with. This is all about creating a kind of collective memory for your team. So our first metric is super simple but incredibly powerful. The number of known errors you have logged in your known error database, or KEDB. Just think of the KEDB as your team's shared brain. Every single time you figure out a tricky issue, that knowledge needs to land in here. A growing number here means your team's wisdom is actually growing. But you know, a library full of amazing books is pretty useless if nobody ever cracks one open, right? And that's exactly what our next metric is about. What percentage of your incidents are actually being linked back to those known errors? This tells you if your team is using all that hard-won knowledge to solve things faster. And this is what you're shooting for. A really mature, high-performing organization is going to have over 60% of their incidents linked to known errors. When you hit a number like that, it's proof that you're not constantly reinventing the wheel. You're actually cashing in on your past work to solve today's problems efficiently. Okay, so we're building our knowledge base. That's awesome. Now, let's talk about speed. Because it's not enough to just know about the problems. It's about how quickly you can jump on them, diagnose them, and get to work. This leads us to a really crucial one, the average time it takes to identify a root cause. When a new problem blows up, how long does it take your team to get past the surface level symptoms and find the actual disease? The faster you can diagnose, the faster you stop the bleeding. It's as simple as that. And this timeline here, it actually lays out a couple more of our key metrics. First, for those really big, major incidents, you want a full root cause analysis, an RCA, done within 72 hours. Second, look at your problem backlog. A problem should never, ever sit in there for more than 90 days without some kind of action. These two metrics together force you to investigate quickly and make sure your backlog doesn't just become a graveyard for old issues. Great. So, we're fast at finding the root cause. But what comes next? Well, this part is all about action. It's about minimizing the damage right now and then deploying a real permanent fix for the long haul. The first step is always containment, and that brings us to this metric, the percentage of your problems that have a documented workaround. A workaround is basically a temporary fix, a band-aid, that gets people back to work. It's absolutely critical for keeping the business running while you cook up a permanent solution. And you really want to aim high here. We're talking over 90%. Why? Because a high number here shows a deep commitment to your users. It proves that you're focused on reducing their pain, and it's a huge sign of a resilient, customer-focused support process. So once you have that permanent fix ready, how do you get it out there? That's where this metric comes in, the percentage of fixes that are implemented through your formal change management process. This is so important because it stops a well-intentioned fix from accidentally causing 3 new problems. It ensures you're making things better in a stable, controlled way. And that brings us to the final and I think most important part of this whole journey. We've gone from documenting to diagnosing to fixing. Now we're going to talk about how to stop these problems from ever happening again. This is where you truly go from reactive to proactive. And here it is, the ultimate test of your whole process. What percentage of your incidents are repeats? This number tells the true story. If it's high, it's a huge red flag that your so-called fixes are just temporary patches, not real solutions. The goal for a world-class organization is to get this number under 5%. Just think about that for a second. Fewer than 1 in 20 incidents should be something your team has ever seen before. Hitting that target is a crystal clear sign that you are genuinely eliminating problems from your system for good. Now we're really getting into prevention with these last two metrics. First, the number of proactive problems you identify. These are issues you find and fix before they ever impact a user. And you pair that with the cost savings from preventing those incidents. Together, these metrics show exactly how your team is shifting from a cost center to a value driver, literally saving the business money by stopping fires before they start. And this just lays out the transformation perfectly. I mean, look at the difference. The reactive team is drowning in repeat incidents with a backlog that just keeps growing. They're always fighting fires. But the proactive, data-driven team, they have low repeats, their backlog is shrinking, and they spend their time preventing fires. It is a night and day difference, not just in effectiveness, but in team morale, too. It really does all come down to this classic bit of wisdom. Without these metrics, you're basically just flying blind and hoping for the best. With them, you have a clear, structured roadmap for getting better every single day. So let's just quickly recap the whole framework. We have our 10 critical metrics. We've got the ones for building your knowledge base, like KDB entries and linkage rates. We've got the ones for speed, like RCA times and backlog age. We have metrics for containing issues with workarounds and formal changes. And finally, the proactive ones for tracking repeats and prevented incidents. Together, they give you a complete health check for your problem resolution process. And this is probably the most important thing to remember. These aren't just 10 separate numbers on a dashboard. They're an interconnected system. When you improve one, it naturally lifts the others. It creates this powerful feedback loop, this engine for continuous improvement. So, I'll leave you with this one final thought to take back with you. Looking at this whole system, which one of these metrics, if you could just magically improve it tomorrow, would have the single biggest, most positive ripple effect across your entire team? Whatever your answer is, that's your starting point.